Not in Pariah Nexus. I think Pariah Nexus, more than Jaeger's releasing, Pariah Nexus changed how we play 40k.
Hello, my fellow kin. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another pro player interview. I'm joined today by special guest Jordan Stuckenshneider from Team Johnny, featuring the Georgia Warlords Tennessee Valley Intramural Shuffleboard Club, who went undefeated at the NATC 8-player team event held on the weekend of July 12th. Jordan, how are you doing tonight? And please tell us, why do you have the jazziest name in all of 40k for team events?
God, our team name is also the jazziest team name.
It is. It is.
It's oh man, it's
where does that come from?
that came from the first team event in the circuit that was in March for
Okay.
the tabletop league, and it was the first 8-mans. It was called 8TC, which is very confusing with ATC,
Yeah.
but you know, we it is what it is. But that's because at that event we like combined 2 5-man teams,
Okay.
and our best player is goated, and we had to cement his name, and now we're his vassals. He is our
Okay.
lord.
He's
We simply
eternally
serve
baked
him.
into your
Yes,
team name.
yes,
Okay.
he is forever goated.
Nice. Okay, I love it. Okay, Jordan. So, I mean, I guess the easiest first question we could do is, how did you first get into the game, and when did you gravitate towards Votann?
Oh man, I first got into the game. What was it? 2 years ago, I think. A little bit more than 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was whenever ninth edition Thousand Sons release for their codex.
Okay.
I picked up a small bit of Thousand Sons, and it took me about a year, maybe 6 months, before I finally started playing games.
Okay. Okay.
And then after that, it's just kind of kicked off. I've just been playing a ton,
It's
painting a ton.
hard to put it down, eh, once you start.
Yeah, painting an absolute, like, that's I spend all my time hobbying almost, at least
Nice.
most of my free time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people that hates building but likes painting, or do you like both?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate building most of all. Building Votann models is like, why? Like
Dude,
you can,
honestly, I think the Votann models are a breeze to put together, except for the
oh,
bikes. The bikes
the bikes that's what I
are
was gonna talk
terrible. Yeah,
about
you got a
was,
lot of
yeah.
bikes without spoiling it just yet.
Oh my God, the bikes are insane. Like you have to, if you want to paint everything, you gotta like keep the rider separate from the bike, and then you want to like not glue the bike onto the bike or onto the base.
Yeah,
It's just like the sub-assembly nightmare.
it's
And then
terrible.
you gotta pin it because they'll break. All of my bikes have broken off the base
Yeah.
that you've glued on them at least some point. So usually, like you just gotta pin it.
Hmm.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
only own 2 sets of 3 bikes. And, before I got the second set of three, I was like, what archetype do I want to lean into with Votann? Do I want to try one of these bike heavy lists that seem to be doing really well in Leviathan at the time? And, yeah, man, I don't have it in me. I just can't go through
Yeah.
that process again.
It's tough. Bikes are the hardest part. Once I get all of my bikes, 'cause I did have to borrow some bikes for
Hmm.
ATC.
Okay.
Once I get all of mine done, no more bikes.
Yeah, I would hope no more bikes after we see
God.
how many you run. I don't think you could own any more bikes.
I'm so worried because I didn't magnetize like 3 of my Highlases.
Yeah.
I'm so worried that the ion gun is gonna be good, and I'm gonna
Okay.
have to buy more bikes.
How prevalent do you think it is to have like WYSIWYG at the events you go to? Because it in the events I've been to,
Mm,
which is only a few, it's been pretty easygoing in terms of the actual weapon you're equipped with, as long as it's easy
yeah.
to identify.
You know, I think it's if you are like a Xenos army,
Hmm.
nobody cares. But if you're a Space Marine player, brother, like you need to have every weapon. It all needs to be correct.
Yeah, that's the Xenos
Which is
privilege.
Yeah, it's the Xenos privilege. It is our right. We can just do whatever we want. And so yeah, I've noticed things like the scanners, whatever, like for Votann, right?
Hmm.
Like the panspectral scanner. That is something I don't think like your opponent is ever like gonna be aware of that's like a actual model
Yeah.
unless they also play Votann, right?
Yeah,
They'll
they're
just
like, wait a
ask
minute,
like,
that's the searchlight. It's like, you got me.
yeah, yeah. So it's not that big of a deal for WYSIWYG, I think,
Yeah, okay.
but it depends on your army.
So you started off with Thousand Suns, and from what we spoke about before the interview even started, you didn't really get to play much with them in 10th so far. You just jumped straight into Votann. So how did that happen, the transition to a new army?
So I bought Votann when they released in ninth,
Hmm.
but I spent so long trying to hobby them, get them ready, and I don't think I ever played with them in ninth, and I'd played Thousand Suns throughout ninth.
Hmm.
And so when the edition started, I didn't play them when the edition first came out because Votann, as we all know, had
Yeah.
one judgment token to give
Yeah, that
and no
was
more
that was
judgment tokens.
rough.
It was real rough. And so I didn't play them until the data slate, the first one.
Okay.
But after that, I have played them almost exclusively. I don't think I've played any other army.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So it's pretty similar to my experience as well. I started picking them up. I always had my eye on them. I never got them in ninth, but I had my eyes on them, and I was in ninth playing at the tail end. I was playing Thousand Suns as well, but not at all competitively. I think I got like two real games in with them, and then I was like, I don't think this army's for me. Wasn't a too big of a fan of the play style, and then took a little break, was just doing a lot of hobbying, was doing Blood Angels, and I saw like a picture online of the Votann model, the Hearthguard in like a dark Iron Dwarf theme. And I'm like, okay, I could hobby that. Like, that's really cool. So I picked that up, and then just within a few months, it's like, yeah, okay, this is gonna be my main army for sure.
Yeah,
Thunderkin, and just like, oh, so nice,
it's
so
such
so
a
so
cool
nice.
army.
Hey everyone, Votann Matt here, shamelessly interrupting to remind you all that we now have channel memberships available here on YouTube. Becoming a channel member or leaving us a super chat in the comment section below are two of the best ways to help support the channel and help us bring you new and exciting content every week. As a channel member, you'll get a special shout out at the start and end of each video, unlock exclusive emojis, and have a bigger say into what kind of content I will be putting out for you to view each week. So if you enjoy our videos and want to support us a little bit further, please consider sending us a super chat or becoming a channel member today. And with that said, let's get back to the video. Cool. So you are here to talk to us a little bit about your team event that you attended. Now, I know a lot of people on the channel probably aren't too familiar with how team events actually work. So I guess before we jump into talking about that, is this your first team event that you attended?
No, so I have a pretty good amount of experience with team events. It's almost what I exclusively play now. I don't really go to any singles events.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I only do teams now. And so this was my third ATC.
Nice. Okay.
So, but I've done team events. It used to only be five mans as well. That's why back in March we had to combine two teams
Okay.
that used to be five mans into making an eight man.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
so, and I know over in Europe they have like always been playing eight man teams,
Okay.
but
Yes. Yeah.
here in the US it's been five man teams, which are now there's still five man teams. There was a format for both eight mans and five mans at
Hmm.
ATC, but the eight mans is it's I guess it's more what the rest of the world plays, right? So it's
Yeah.
what I'm more drawn to.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Um,
they've been getting more and more attention, I think, recently, especially this edition. A lot of like big channels have been talking about team events. A lot of videos coming out about getting people involved in team events. I haven't personally attended any yet, but I do have one, my first ever team event in September that I might be going to. So I'm pretty
Exciting.
excited about that.
Yes. Yeah,
Uh,
I know that the next one I'm going to is DreamHack, which is out
oh,
here in
nice,
Atlanta. So
nice.
I don't have to get no Airbnb. I don't have to travel nowhere. I just go out the house, drive 30 minutes, and I'm there. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
nice. Okay, cool. And so I guess for people that are unfamiliar with how team events work, you want to talk us through a little bit, just briefly, about like the general format that someone could expect to go to a team event. Like, what is the team
Yeah.
structure like? Like, it's what are the rules involved with it? How does pairing work? Things like that.
Yeah. So I guess we should start off with how many people you need.
Hmm.
Depends. Are you a 5-man or are you an 8-man? Um, if you make an 8-man team, and it's the same if for either fives or eights, you only choose it's one of each faction. You can't double up on like I can't have two Votann players, right?
Hmm.
It can only be one Votann player. And you cannot double up on data sheets. So this is not something Votann has to worry about. We have no allies. But it is something Imperium armies or Chaos armies have to think about, right? Like
Right, right, yeah.
you can't take Thousand Suns and also have Rubric Marines in your Chaos Space Marines list.
Oh,
You're,
that's cool.
you're
Okay.
gonna you're gonna have to pick and choose. Does my Death Guard get the Nurglings, or do my Chaos Knights get the Nurglings?
Ah,
You're gonna have to communicate with your teammates and try to figure out a list if you are gonna share data sheets or like play
yeah,
like
yeah.
multiple Chaos factions,
Hmm.
right? It's something you have to communicate with
That's cool.
your
Okay,
team about.
so everybody's basically representing a single faction in the game, like wholly.
Yep,
Cool.
yep.
Okay.
So each each 8-man teams rolls up to the pairing table. You're gonna roll off to see who gets first pick of the tables
Hmm.
because there's gonna be 8 tables out for you,
Okay.
and then you're both gonna put down defenders. So you choose one faction from your 8-man roster
Hmm.
and you place it face down on the table so your opponents don't know.
Interesting.
You
Okay.
you both flip them over at the same time, and now you take your opponents take your card, your faction, and they're gonna put two factions of their own into your list, and you're gonna have to make the choice of what you put down, what they're gonna have to play. So
Okay. Cool. So it really is kind of like this interactive pairing process. You got a lot more control over your matchups and what armies you're going to play against, and just even what kind of list you're going to face.
yep, yeah,
Okay.
you do
Nice.
have some control.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes you can be like putting yourself down as an attacker. That's what we call if you are part of the two lists that get put down
Hmm.
into the defender, you're called an attacker.
Okay.
And so it could be like you get put down as an attacker 3 rounds in a row, and your opponents are like, we do not want to play you, right? Like, get this list out of here. We'll save
Yeah.
it for the end. And you eventually just end up, all right, we're the last 2 people that have yet to be chosen, so we're playing each other. It wasn't really our choice,
Yeah. It's by
but we
force.
tried. Yeah,
Okay.
we tried.
All right.
So, but there is a good amount of choice.
That's cool. Okay. And then, so I guess the next question would be, as a Votann player at this event, what role were you taking on, attacker or defender?
So Votann specifically, when we did our 8-man rosters, like, hey, what factions are we playing? We had specific roles in mind.
Okay.
So we had this is a great defender. I want table choice because defenders get table choice. So this
Okay.
was like I have a super good shooting list for this faction. So
Hmm.
I need to pick a table. I need to get as many open lanes as possible.
Okay,
So I'm gonna
so
be,
so
yep, go
just
ahead.
to jump in, so it sounds like unlike with single events where you're basically everybody's playing the same match, the same setup for terrain, it's different per table at teams.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, there's 8 different tables out there, and it's a mix between light, medium, and heavy tables.
Oh, wow. Okay. Circling back then to the role as you were designing and talking with your teammates about what
Uh,
everybody wanted to
yeah.
have. So where did you fall in?
So Votann's role, we looked at Votann as a faction that can go into anything and get a 10-10.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna
Okay.
you're gonna force a draw on your opponent
Nice.
because Votann are one of the armies currently. Like Votann can bring like a huge amount of units, not like necessarily models, but you can bring a huge amount of activations.
Hmm.
And having that many activations and that many units means you're gonna score really well. So
Right.
it's really hard for you to get big losses. You can lose games for sure, but like losing by like 50 points is like almost unheard of for Votann,
Hmm.
I think right now.
Okay.
And so that was when we looked at Votann, we were like, we're gonna use Votann to cram as many units into this list as possible, and whatever we don't want to play against, you're gonna play into, and you're gonna get a 10-10. That's your goal. And anything else, like if you can capitalize on a mistake and get a win out of it, that's amazing. But
Nice. Okay.
if I had gone to this event and I had just gotten 5 draws, we would have viewed that as a success for the list because that was the only role.
That's very
I was
cool.
just there to take like that's you're just looking at like, hey, there's a sisters player that we like cannot play against. It's gonna 20-0 somebody.
Yeah.
I'm going into it and I'm getting 10 points.
Yeah, okay. So you're really just coming here to stalemate opponents. Like you just don't want to give
Yes.
points up and give another team the lead, and you're hoping the other lists can pack enough firepower, enough of mission play to just get ahead. That's cool. And so for people
Yep.
who don't know, when we're referring to like 10-10 or 20 old, this is the WTC scoring. So it's different from regular scoring where you just take the raw number. It's just a comparison in this case between the score both players have. And a 10-10 would be a draw in that there's I think it's like a 4 point difference between both players or
Uh,
five
5 point
5 point
difference.
difference. Okay, okay.
My one draw was a 4 point singles win, and I was so depressed. I was
Yeah,
like, no, I was 1 point away from a perfect 5-0, but it's
yeah,
a 5-0 in my heart, so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
all that matters.
You're still undefeated in my eyes, and you're still undefeated in the thumbnail of this video. So,
In the kin's eyes,
yeah, so don't worry about
in the
that.
ancestors' eyes.
So that's cool. So you feel pretty confident that Votann overall don't have any matchups where you get a hard loss. And if you're building your list activation wise, so like this would be the Sagittar spam, you have a pretty good chance of getting an even score with your opponent. That's good to know. It's
Hmm.
cool.
We didn't really talk over matrices too much.
No, no.
Um, but it's pretty important for teams. So like a matrix is it's on Excel. A there's quite a few different ways it's formatted, but you can look up a 40K team matrix or whatever. And what you'll do is you'll type in your team, you type in your factions, right, in this Excel spreadsheet, and
Hmm.
you'll type in like the rest of the competition that's there. And it'll
Okay.
pull up things like it'll pull up their record, like at past GTs. Like every player has their past record at GTs. It has their like ELO,
All right.
um, like how like basically like an estimate of their skill, right?
Hmm.
And it has like you type in their team lists, you type in their factions, and when you do your matrix, you fill it out for all of your rounds. And you want to fill it out for every team before the event
Right.
to give you the best like trends because you're not going to have time to do this in between
Right.
rounds.
Yeah.
And when you sit down and do pairings, you look at the matrix and you already know because you've already done your research beforehand. You already know what you have big losses into, a draw, and like small losses, big losses into. You've already done that homework beforehand.
Right. Okay.
And
Wait.
and
So, just so I'm looking at this in real time because I've never heard of the team's matrix before, but it looks like it's like a pretty big thing. Like it's on StatCheck. I saw it's on
yeah.
Goonhammer too. So you're
Yep.
basically like before you even go to the event, you're just listing down every possible faction and like archetype, and then the players that would be at the event.
Yeah, you'll look at like you want to do your matrix after lists have been revealed
Okay,
or
okay,
submitted.
okay.
Yeah, like after you know what factions are going to be at the event,
Okay,
right?
that
And the
makes more
players that are
sense.
going
All
to
right,
be
that's
there.
that's the gap I was missing.
Yeah. And then you do your matrix and you be like, hey, against this guy I have a big loss, or against this guy I have a small loss, right? And that
Okay.
helps your pairing. You've already like mathematically figured out the best pairing combinations that you need to win that round.
All
Um,
right. Okay.
and you're fighting to get those pairings. That's the whole point of the attacker defender placing down, right? Is
Yes.
you're fighting to get the matchups you want and on the tables that you want.
Okay, I see. Okay, so I have a picture here pulled up. I'll probably maybe like I'll put an overlay on YouTube for people just to see and conceptualize it more. So basically, like you literally have as like the header for the rows, you have your list and your armies, and then at the top for the columns, you got your opponent's armies and lists, and then in the middle you fill in the elo, and then you kind of like cell shade the colors, and you decide like which matchup is better for which army, so that when you go in you got like kind of like this nice agenda laid out where you can already say, okay, like we got Necrons, like send this
Hmm.
guy in with this list.
Yeah, it's essential. Like we had tried 8 TC back in March
Mm-hmm.
without this, and we did not. We still, I think we got sixth. We did the same. We were like the exact same in both events,
Okay.
but we felt so much better as a team at
Right.
ATC.
Right. Right. I mean, like it
Like,
makes sense. It helps. Like everybody knows what they should be
yeah,
doing and what everybody's strengths and weaknesses are. There's no
yeah,
surprises. There's no arguing at the table about it or someone feeling like the wrong call was made.
yeah. There were some surprises, right? Like
Right.
sometimes, like all of my big wins were like, whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's room for surprises, but good
Yes.
surprises most of the time. And like, something could obviously go completely catastrophically
Yeah.
wrong for sure, right?
Yeah.
But like at least you have this level of confidence going in, which is probably how
Yeah.
I should say.
You know what you should be fighting for as a
Yeah.
player, right? You know what points you need to be working for.
Okay, okay. And so you guys you make one matrix for each team that's at the event.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, like you'll have yeah, I mean that's all you do, right? You look at every team, you look at all their lists, and you make a matrix for each team that you go
Nice.
that you could possibly go into. And then
Nice,
eventually,
nice.
you get to the event and you get paired into what you get paired into.
Nice, yeah.
But you've already done your homework. There's no fretting, there's no panic 30 minutes before the round starts trying to figure out what y'all want to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it just makes everything a lot more organized and just like that level of
Yep.
confidence for the team. That's really cool.
Yep.
This was something I didn't know even existed, so it's great. It's great insight right off the bat here.
Yeah, it's such an important tool. Like if your team isn't using it,
Hmm.
you need to use it. Like this is the next step into
Okay.
improving.
All right. So I guess we could talk a little bit about your list. Now you had a very unique list, if I do say so myself. And when you had sent it to me, I had to take a double take just to reread a couple of things that were in there. So why don't you walk us through your list from the top?
All right. So, I guess we start off with the characters. I
Yeah.
had a generic call
Mm-hmm.
with the best enhancement, the appraising glare.
Mm-hmm.
I had Uthar the Destined.
Yep. There it
And
is.
interestingly, yeah, interestingly, I did not attach either one of these characters to any unit ever. They
Okay.
were and this goes back to my role in the list, right?
Hmm.
It's how many units can you cram into a list? And taking them out of their units so they weren't leading anything gave me an extra unit to hop out of a transport to go do an action.
Right. Okay.
And
Okay.
so,
That's,
um,
I think already
yeah,
this is a very unique twist on what we'd usually see with
yeah.
character allocation for Votann. Um,
Uther is a little bit more flexible. He's
yeah,
like
yeah,
pocket mortals, or go tag something and be really annoying.
yeah. I
But
agree with you. Like we were talking before we started recording about Uthar, and like I had said, that when Pariah first dropped, I was looking at the missions, and a lot of them were like, "Oh, for secondaries, you got to wait a whole turn to do an activation." And my first thought is, okay, who can actually survive a full turn, and who's cheap enough to do it where I don't feel like I'm wasting an activation? And like Uthar is that guy. I just
It's
I never
Uthar.
ran him. I thought
Yeah.
it was too crazy, but it looks like you did it to great success. So that's really cool
Yeah,
to see.
not crazy. He's the same cost as 10 Jaegers.
Yeah, yeah.
So he is perfect for what I think I used him for.
Okay.
So, um, what else? Then I think I had the rest of the list as a pretty standard 6 Sagittar 18 bike. Um, I had two missile launchers on the Sagittars
Okay.
instead of the all las cannons, and that's because when I had tested my games,
Hmm.
I noticed that usually I would need a Sagittar to shoot across like farther than 24 inches, right? I would
Right.
need them to help support me somewhere. And the missile launcher's range was what I needed. And it's still a pretty decent gun. It's still strength 12 AP3. So,
Yeah, I
no
don't think there's
explosions.
anything wrong with it. It's like
Yeah.
it's less fun than the casino gun,
Yeah.
but that could be a good thing too sometimes because you don't necessarily want to just roll D6 damage. You want to know you got three coming through and you get that extra
Yeah.
range, which helps.
The only double six I rolled the whole event
Hmm.
was on a missile launcher. And I
Classic.
was so depressed. I was like heartbroken when it happened, but I pushed through that like
Yeah.
damage that got dealt to me. But um so yeah, so I had 6 Sagittars, four of them with las cannons. They're basically you want those las cannon Sagittars kind of towards the center of the board
Hmm.
when I played them, and the missile launchers were on the side.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then I had 20 warriors split into 3 Sagittars, and then 5 sat on the home objective. And then I had berserks, and I took plasma axes on the
Yeah,
berserks.
that's crazy too.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people thought I was insane. All of my opponents were like, "You're not taking balls," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not taking balls." And they're like, "Why?" And I'll tell you why. It's because they hit on twos with
Wait,
with judgment tokens. With judgment tokens, they hit on twos because they
the axes hit on three base?
yes, the axes hit on threes.
Wow, wait. I don't even think I recalled that from when I did the analysis on them a few months ago. That's kind of crazy. Hold on, I gotta pull this up in the app. That's so funny. I don't know if you saw the live that I recorded with my friend on Monday night. Towards the end of the video, we were talking a bit about Berserks, and the biggest complaint I had why I took them out of my list was, the mauls are great. They're strike 9, they're damage 3, but they're just so inconsistent because they're hitting on
Mm-hmm.
4's base. Even when they go down to 3 with a token, you still drop so many, and
Yep.
it's not enough.
Yeah.
But I gotta see this. Yeah, wow, they hit on threes. Okay, that's crazy.
Yep. So because we don't have any hit rerolls in many of my practice games, a unit of berserks with hammers would I'd roll like 7 1s and 2s in
Yeah,
my hit roll, right?
yeah,
And suddenly my berserks are bouncing
yeah,
off of whatever they're trying to punch, and then they'll die in that same turn to whatever is punching them back because now whatever is they were attacking is now alive.
yeah,
And so suddenly I've just lost a unit for free almost. I've just kind of tossed a unit to the wind.
yeah.
And with axes, because axes wound a lot of things, like anything that's T5 or below,
Hmm.
axes wound the same as hammers. And anything that's like T10 or T11, axes also wound the same as hammers. Only at
Yeah, you're right.
T12, yeah, only at T12, T9, 8, and 7, and 6. So it's like 5 different numbers. They are different, but I valued knowing that I was going to hit on twos, and like I knew more of what I was going to get out of axes than what I was going to get out of hammers. And I think that's a really important like decision making you have to make. It helps. It defines your whole turn, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I actually think going into this I jokingly messaged you like your goal tonight is to sell me on Berserks, and unironically I think you sold me on them in the first 20 minutes of talking. Like that's I can't believe I overlooked that they hit on threes with the axes. I just assumed that they were hitting on fours
mhm.
native for everything. That makes a massive difference because 16 attacks hitting on fours going to threes. I think you drop 5 or 6, you go down to like 11 hit rolls, and then you got a wound after. You're probably going to wound something on like fours if you're trying to swing up. So you're like
Mhm.
double judged. So you drop half of your dice, and then your opponent
Yep.
saves. They probably save like half of them, maybe, or something like that. Then you only get like 3 that go in. But that's actually pretty compelling, your argument, because you're right. In a lot of instances, you get the same wound roll that goes through as well because you're string 6.
Yep. And you can still get them to the same AP, right? They're both
Yeah.
naturally AP2. So when you slam that extra AP2 strat on your melee weapons,
Yeah.
you're both going to be AP4. And um, you also have a sweep
Yeah.
whenever that matters. Like
Yeah, you're
we
right.
thought we thought Sisters Penitent engine lists, so like the ones with the Repentia, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we thought those were going to be more popular. And so if you have a hammer fighting on death into like a unit of Repentia, it's not nearly as good as a sweep
Yeah.
from a plasma axe.
Yeah. 6
Um,
attacks hitting on twos. Pretty
yeah,
crazy.
and that's like say the Repentia charge your berserk, right? And they just wipe out the berserks because your berserks aren't living through that.
Hmm.
Nothing, almost nothing is to begin with, but you'll die, you'll lose your whole unit. You'll be like, all right, here's a judgment token. Now my axes hit on twos with their sweeps, and then they wound you on threes naturally. And so that type of it wasn't popular. Sisters have now switched to like Bringers of Flame.
Mm-hmm.
That's their like main detachment. But we valued the sweep in our list building because we thought of what I was going to go into. Sweep would be more prevalent.
Yeah, my mind has been blown, and I think I might have to give Berserks another try. To be honest with you, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I never considered that.
With axes, like you'll pick up Marines, super easy. Like
Yeah,
anything that's like T5, 2 wounds or less like that, you'll just pick it up. And then you'll still do like really good damage into like things that are like T10, T11. Like I think a unit with plasma axes does like 10 wounds into a knight, like like one of those smaller knights.
right.
It's like 10 to 12. And so that means you just got to get like one heavy bolter from a Sagittar to wound a knight. And
Yeah,
suddenly you can be like, all right, I know this unit of berserks is very likely to just go pick up this knight. So now I can start shooting other stuff.
very interesting. Because I have
Yeah.
charged Berserks with a maul into a knight, and it's just still very inconsistent. But it's just because I'm hitting on threes. Like even if it's
Yep.
like, and if it's not judged, I'm hitting on fours. So forget it. You lose half your dice. Um,
Yep.
that's very very cool.
If we had hit rerolls, the hammer would be the better
Yeah,
option.
for sure, for sure.
But we don't have hit rerolls. So there's a real choice
There is a
to
real
make.
choice. Okay, you've given me something to think over. I might have to make a new a revised unit analysis video for these guys.
Yeah. And I took the concussion, the Fists of Fury,
mm,
because a lot of the times it's an extra attack over the axe.
mm-hmm.
And even it does hit worse than the axes, but because it has the extra attack, I'm not as concerned.
Right. It's also twin linked, which is cool.
Yep. Which is it did matter some games. I remember like Twin Linked would convert like 3 failed wounds into 3 wounds, and now all of a sudden now it's like AP3, and that's
Mm,
a free. Sometimes it was not free, but it was like here's 6 damage that I wasn't doing otherwise.
yeah.
And so I think if you take hammers, you don't take the fists. But
Right.
if you take plasma axes, you should probably take some fists
Yeah.
because it's basically a one extra attack
Yeah.
with
That makes
plasma axe.
sense. I think that was what I had got on the math when I ran the numbers in the video for them as well. That if you run the axes, one swapping out is an upgrade. If you take the gauntlets, but it is a downgrade if you take all moles, which is pretty cool. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Votann Matt here, shamelessly interrupting to remind you all that we now have channel memberships available here on YouTube. Becoming a channel member or leaving us a super chat in the comment section below are two of the best ways to help support the channel and help us bring you new and exciting content every week. As a channel member, you'll get a special shout out at the start and end of each video, unlock exclusive emojis, and have a bigger say into what kind of content I will be putting out for you to view each week. So if you enjoy our videos and want to support us a little bit further, please consider sending us a super chat or becoming a channel member today. And with that said, let's get back to the video. Alright.
Yeah.
And then you have, of course, one squad of Jaegers. These guys, it looks like they're running the pistols and knives, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a sniper in there. I
Yeah.
would dump the sniper.
Yeah.
I did buy 20 Jaegers, and the sniper, he never did anything.
Mhm.
And I remember my last game that I played, it came very close to, like, I almost did not achieve what I needed to achieve
Mm.
because I didn't have that extra knife attack. Luckily, my opponent was bad at rolling dice. But
Yeah, that helps.
but it was, worrisome for a second. I was sweating, so
Yeah,
we're good.
the knives kind of slap, like surprisingly. They're good at AP too. Like they could hurt
Yeah.
small units, especially into like
I,
guard or something. Like it's good.
I don't know when you want to talk about Jaegers and kind of what I use them for,
Oh yeah, why don't you tell us? Take us through it.
because it's the brand new unit, right?
Yeah.
From Pariah Nexus. I didn't have too much experience with them before the event because I only got my hands on them
They're
middle of
so hard
June.
to find. They're so hard to find
Yeah.
unless you buy like the full box, and then I think what's even harder to find is a GSC player to split the box with. So
I'm so blessed.
yeah.
I have two players around me that
Wow.
played
Yeah.
VSC. Yeah.
Lucky.
They were not as blessed with their codex, but they were willing to make that trade. So
Nice. Lucky.
a good dwarf always finds some good trade partners.
Yeah, that's good. You embody the values of the faction. Great. So, how did you use these guys in game? What was your trick to making them work?
So if you're versus infiltrators, you string them out, right? Do you know what a bow tie is
Yeah, yeah. You just tie
in
the
40k
knots at
terms?
both ends
Yep.
and you set
Yep.
them down the middle.
Yep. So that's a huge amount of space. It doesn't always get you the whole no man's land.
Hmm.
Usually there is something on the left or the right side of the map, but you can secure like 38 inches of no man's land
Nice. Yeah, that's
for
pretty
your
good.
scout.
Pretty
And
significant.
and even if they deploy first, like there was a game where I was against like three infiltrators, but because they were in five mans,
Hmm.
he strung out his five man, and I still had space to drop my whole 10 man in its full bow tie, and it protected me from the other two units of his infiltrators trying to block my scout moves, and so basically him winning the roll off for the attacker or defender just didn't really matter.
Interesting.
Um, so when you're versus infiltrators, you string them out as far as you can.
Hmm.
And if you're not versus infiltrators, you hold them last and you wait to see where your opponent, if they have something cheap, like for example, a unit of 5 death marks
Hmm.
that's too close to the deployment zone, you deploy them as close as possible to that unit. And if you get first, you're going to get a easy charge with AP4 knives, right? Because
Yeah.
you're gonna judge that 5 unit of death marks and you're gonna kill them.
Yeah.
You're gonna just tear them apart, and you're gonna get your grunt birthday party, three CP, turn one.
Interesting. Okay. So you use these
So
guys pretty offensively from what I gather. Like you're either
yep,
using them just to die turn one, but they're securing no man's land for you by screening everything out, or you're literally just throwing them in turn one to fight and die and get you your CP back.
yep. They always died turn one. There was never a game where they lived beyond turn one.
Yeah.
But they're pretty good at getting. If you go first, and there's a cheap chaff unit somewhere close to them, they're
Yeah.
gonna get you that 3 CP.
That's
So
true.
They're pretty good. It's something that Votann wasn't really able to do before.
Hmm.
A lot of people are so worried that like the bikes Scout 9 and Move 12 is and it is far, but I have found my opponents often hide what the bikes can kill.
Mm-hmm.
They hide them behind obscuring. I still can't get angles, and I'm not getting my 3 CP going into my turn 2, right?
Right.
I'm only cashing, like I'm only killing a judgment token unit on
Hmm.
turn 2, which means my turn 3 is when I get my 3 CP.
Hmm.
But with Jaegers, I think like 3 games I had, it was either 2 or 3. I got my because of Jaegers, I got my 3 CP at the start of my turn 2.
Cool. Okay. I know some people prefer using them as like a tool to secure like an expansion objective. Other people like using them as like strictly a move blocker. So it's interesting to see that there really are a number of different ways you could use this unit and still get really good value out of them, regardless of what
Yep.
option you take.
Yeah, if I played against like knights, I think I would just rather move block.
Hmm.
Um, because that their knives aren't really good at. They're not really gonna
No, yeah, you
unless
won't.
you like rolled insane. You could technically like grenades.
Hmm.
I've done this before. You throw grenades at them. You shoot the rocket launcher. Suddenly you've done way more damage than you're supposed
Yeah,
to a vehicle. And now it's like, okay, now I charge this thing
yeah, and
and
you
pick
might
it up
get
with
it.
the
Yeah,
knives. Yeah, yeah, right. Because your knives are still naturally AP too, and it makes them sweat.
that's
Um,
funny.
they're the Jaegers, man. They're pretty good. I wouldn't take more than 10
Hmm.
because really you're only going to get one opportunity to do this, right? Which
Right.
is turn 1. So you only need 1 unit, and they're like I said, they're the same cost as Uthar,
Yeah.
and I would rather have Uthar over another 10-man unit. So
Interesting.
that's all you
Okay.
need, and
Yeah.
I would take out the sniper
The
because
sniper,
move block.
yeah. I didn't find it was that useful either in my games. I think I'd
Yeah,
rather just have the extra attacks.
yeah,
Still a pretty cool model though.
they're very cool.
Okay, and I think the other big question I have is, it looks like you did not include any Terminators, any Hearthguard at all. And
Nope.
was the reason for that just because you needed speed, you needed the mobility to get to different areas of the board faster and more reliably? Was there any value in having Hearthguard as kind of like this hard to shift brick that would be annoying or like help to deny primary or something?
So I didn't take Hearthguard because Hearthguard kind of require a delivery system.
Hmm.
So you're gonna either be taking a Hecaton,
Mm-hmm.
which is 225 points,
Yeah.
or you're gonna be taking a 10-man probably if you want to deep strike them, because a 5-man at a deep strike doesn't really do too much.
Yeah.
Um, a 10-man is better for the deep strike roll, but it also takes up so much more space and so much more points.
Mm-hmm.
So it's significantly harder to use. And think in Pariah Nexus, because of how many actions are required, you want as many units as possible. And I think Votann is the faction that is suited. Like we have the capability to bring a lot more units than most factions.
Mm-hmm.
So just taking Hearthguard kind of reduces basically one of your skews,
Okay.
right? That you have available to your faction.
Yeah.
That it kind of that sets you apart over other factions, right? Like I think the only other faction that really beats us in activations is like Drukhari
Yeah. Fair.
right now.
Yeah.
Even I don't even know if Eldari have more units than us. I haven't looked at a typical Eldari list.
I think
Or
with
at
your
least
style of list, it's debatable. You might have more activations.
I have 20.
Yeah, you have a
I know I have
lot.
20.
I run a more elite style, so I'm doing the 3 Landfort list right now, and
Yeah.
it's also running 3 Hearthguard. One of the
Yeah.
5 man is in Deep Strike, and that's the next consideration I'm debating to drop, just because I do feel like it doesn't do enough, the 5 man. Like all it is there for is to really just pose as a like a rapid ingress threat for something and force my
Hmm.
opponent to think a little bit and screen. But that would probably be the next thing to go. And And you're right. Like I feel it. Like it is hard for secondaries. Like if you lose your Sagittar early, you lose your
Mhm.
Hearthkin early in the game, you're out of trading pieces that you could, or sacrificial pieces that are just there to do objectives. And now you gotta commit like Hearthguard to go somewhere and do something where they should be trying to kill
Yeah,
instead.
it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Like let's say you take just a Hecaton with a E-champ and a regular unit of Hearthguard. That's like what 445 points
Yeah.
just for basically 2 units. And in my list, you could take like 6 units
Yeah.
almost. And think about it, right? That Hecaton and that unit of Hearthguard, they can't be doing actions. They have to be contributing damage.
Yeah.
And so you just don't have the room in Pariah Nexus to really be taking them.
Yeah.
At least at least in my mind. I think you could still take Hecatons,
Yeah,
but
I love the
um
hackathon. Like they're good. Like they're really efficient and they're great at primary.
mhm,
But I do feel like my list is struggling a bit with secondaries just because if as soon as you start like engaging in a trading war with someone, you're depleted way too quick. And then like you
mhm.
draw like sabotage like round three and that's a bust. You're not gonna get that.
And a unit of Hearthguard, right?
Yeah.
Like they're this weird middle ground. Like you're paying for their durability
Hmm.
because they don't hit harder in melee than Berserks,
Hmm.
and they don't shoot better than a unit of bikes.
True.
But like the only thing that sets them apart really is like we're a 2+ save with -1 to wound.
Yeah.
But it's expensive for that. And I think you could split your skews, right? You could be like, all right, Berserks, you're my melee, bikes, you're my shooting. And the bikes are way more mobile.
Hmm.
Once you drop Hearthguard down, like that's it. But bikes can be like, I uppy downy, I'm now on this flank. Next turn, I uppy downy, I'm suddenly in my opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah. And then good luck like
Like
try to get rid of six bikes in your DZ.
yeah, right? Like it's just it felt so much better than
That's
Hearthguard.
interesting. Okay,
And I
I might try to drop one squad and get six bikes in.
because I didn't know when Pariah Nexus was coming out. I had
Mm-hmm.
practiced basically all of May with triple Hecaton and like 15 Hearthguard and 3 E-champs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of experience with that list. And transitioning over to the 6 Sagittarius 18 bike list, it felt like way better. It felt so much better in terms of
Yeah,
like what I could do with my units.
yeah, I definitely see the value in having this many activations. Like, I think anybody who's played like at least 5 games with a triple Landford list can appreciate the luxury of having activations like in a
Yeah.
list like you have your six Sagittars. It's nice. 3 squads of Berserks, just 300 points. You get 3 activations, and they hit like a truck in melee.
Yeah.
Apparently, with this hidden tech piece of plasma axes, which I didn't even consider.
They're so good.
Yeah,
They're so good.
and you have like a lot of board presence too, right? Like the bikes have
Yeah.
massive footprints. Like, can you
Yep.
even fit all that in some of the like search and destroy? Like, how do you fit all these bikes?
I I always put in reserve one squad.
Oh, okay.
Like always. Every game. There was always one unit hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And also a lot of my games, I think there's only one game where I scouted a unit of bikes forward
Mm-hmm.
to try and alpha strike somebody.
Okay.
The other games I actually scouted backwards
Hmm.
because my opponents didn't give me any angles. And so I just said, okay, you gave me nothing, even if I got first turn. I'm gonna go back, hide in my deployment zone, I uppy downy and find the angles later.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I do find like it's a bit of a trap in I say like 90% of the time being aggressive with the bikes early. Like it's definitely something you reserve and you just hold back. Like just, they're giving you value. They have a huge footprint to screen with. In the meantime, they're a threat for your opponent. They have to always try to screen on their side like 6 inches or 9 inches off the board edge like from themselves and not be hit through like line of fire. So they're pretty solid. I would like to try. I tried six like 1 by 6 in my list, so no 3 man, so just one big brick of six. Didn't like it because I lacked I just lacked the redundancy. But I think if you run a lot of them, then the 6 mans are like the way to go for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, and it's always think about it. It's always harder for your opponent to kill something on one of your flanks, right?
Hmm.
Like if you just uppy downy a unit of bikes and throw it onto the side of the board to help support one of your flanks,
Hmm.
it's harder for your opponent to dedicate resources to try and kill it.
Yeah.
But if you're like, turn one, I'm gonna send this unit of bikes 9 inches, they move 12. Now, like, your opponent can just dedicate, like, it's so easy for them to try and pick that unit up
Yeah.
because now it's sitting
They die pretty
in the middle of
fast
the
too.
table. Yeah, they're not, nothing in my list. I think like 66% of my army is like a t-shirt save.
Yeah.
Like nothing, this list doesn't live if you shoot it or you punch it. This list is about I'm here to score points. Can you stop me?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Um,
All right, and I guess the last question I have here is, I know this was designed intentionally to get very tight games. How do you see a list like this performing outside of a team's event, like a team's context? Because we do see like six Sagittar like lists do well in like singles events, and also
yeah.
Votann in general has a very small model range, so there are some overlaps between archetypes. So how do you see this doing if you were to translate it over to singles?
I think this is a really good singles list. I at first when I built it, I'm like, this is for teams.
Hmm.
Um, this is gonna be I'm gonna I thought I was gonna do much worse than I did. But after playing it, I realized I'm like, I'm always scoring like 90 points every game I play.
Yeah, that's
Like
pretty
that's
good.
that's huge, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
like nobody's ever outscoring me, and the amount of because berserks are bringing good melee damage, bikes are bringing great shooting damage. I have so many Sagittars to help support me. Um, it was like I was picking up opponents' armies,
Wow.
and yeah, so it was. I was shocked by what I was picking up, and so I think this would be a great singles list. It,
Okay, okay, that's cool. If I get my hands on 12 more bikes, I'll I'll give it a shot.
yeah, but
That's
the way
cool.
you pick up other armies, it's different. Like I was having to use grenades and tank shock in tandem with each other
Hmm.
to help bring down some stuff that was a little bit too tough for Votann because
Hmm.
Sagittars, they're only 2 shots. You don't have any hit rerolls, you don't have any
Yeah.
wound rerolls. So like you're kind of, the heart of the cards type deal, right? With
Yeah.
rolling
Yeah. Yeah.
Sagittar dice. And bike shooting doesn't pick up anything that's like 2 up armor or 3 up armor even with
Hmm.
AOC. Um, so anything that's like T9, T10 with Armor of Contempt, very hard for your list to actually pick it up
Yeah.
if you don't have like all your Sagittars shooting it. So using like grenades from my warriors and like tank shock from a Sagittar because Sagittars are now T10 and they rolled 10 dice in tank
Yeah.
shock when they used to roll 6.
Yeah.
It
Pretty good.
it's really good. You can be like, all right, I don't know if I kill you in shooting, but I think I do like an average of 7 mortals from these two things, so I think I can get what damage I can and finish you off like that.
Yeah, that sounds very fun.
Um,
That's cool. All right. So, well, I think you have a really sick list, man. Honestly, it's really cool. This is like off off the interview, just like training thought. Like that's actually pretty crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so overall, you're pretty happy with how the list performed, and do you think it could apply pretty well to singles? No changes here for teams event either. Like it's solid. There's a lot of things. I think
Yeah.
you've left me and the viewers with a lot of considerations to think over here with how we've been looking at some of these units that otherwise wouldn't get any attention. So we could talk a little bit now about some of the games you had. Would you like to walk us through maybe like the game one and like the pairing
Yeah.
process, who you played into, and how you did overall?
Yeah. So I'll try and go over all. I did write down notes for my games.
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna struggle to remember all of the details.
Yeah, you knew you'd get an interview for sure.
Yeah. Um,
Good forward
what was
thinking.
I know? So my game one, it was versus Necron. and
Okay.
I was versus Necrons have a codex, so I played against two Necron lists over the event, and both of them were different detachments.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's Necrons are pretty flexible with their detachments. I think
Hmm.
there's at least two or three that I think are pretty common.
Yeah.
You never really know what you're gonna get when you see Necrons across the table until they finally tell you what they're playing.
Hmm.
But I played against Awakened Necrons game
Oh,
one.
okay. One of the rarer ones. Nice.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, I need to look up their lists. I don't remember all of their lists.
Yeah, no worries.
So like when we looked at this team, Necrons in our matrix, Necrons was overall our team was weak into this list. Most of us were getting small losses, except for me. I was like, all right, I'll take it. If no one, I'm Frodo, right? Like I will
Yeah,
take it. I will take the Ring to Mordor type deal.
yeah.
And the way this game went, it was Purge the Foe. And we had practiced this game extensively in all of my team practice.
Hmm.
And I had found that all you have to do, killing one unit and holding one objective, gets you like 40 VPs. And then
Yeah.
all you have to do is kill more or hold more two times in the game and you're gonna get 50.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it
Good
was a
way of looking
very
at it.
passive
Yeah.
game by me. It was very passive. I was like, you didn't reveal anything, I will reveal nothing. And I was outscoring my opponent. I drew better secondaries. Also, speaking of secondaries, I took tactical every game.
Okay. Yeah.
I never, I
I
never,
figured. Yeah, with your list for sure.
yeah, yeah. And even against like Chaos Knights, I don't know if I would take fixed anymore. That's a different discussion though.
Hmm.
We'll figure that out when that time comes. But um, I always took tactical, and the way the cards played out, I was scoring significantly better on secondaries.
Okay.
Um, he got like both of his like turn one and turn two. I think he drew secondaries that required to kill me,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm hiding. I'm not moving out. I'm just holding one and I'm killing one.
Yeah.
And it ended up to where he was like, all right, if I don't want this to be like a 13-7 or 12-8, I need to make a play. Tried to make a play, like he sent out a little bit too many resources, and I rapid ingress some bikes. I remember this game. I rapid ingress some bikes, flew them into the center of the table, kind of,
Hmm.
shot something, and then charged one of his Doomsday arcs,
Okay.
wrapped it, and then I kept doing the cycle of fallback, shoot, and charge with this unit of bikes because they have fly, and I was just like, brother, you're -1 to hit all the time. I've wrapped you if you want to try and escape. Well, no, he could have escaped. I don't know why he did. I think he liked the table position
Oh,
that
okay.
he was at.
Okay. Yeah,
Like
because he could
he was
fly
sitting in
out,
a
right?
really yeah, he was in a really good spot to shoot like a lot of my
Hmm.
stuff, but it was like I'm giving you -1 to hit.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
just take it. And so and it didn't really hurt me that much because I also had fly. We were both flying against each other. But that was a really good play by my part because that that -1 to hit was huge in that Doomsday Arc's damage. It
Oh,
didn't
for
do nearly as
sure.
much as
Especially
yeah,
in something like Purge the Foe, right? Like if you could reduce the
yeah,
output of your opponent, then that's great. It's just added
it was
value.
huge. He was not picking up Sagittars like he thought he was because of this. Um,
Okay. I'm curious, was he running any probably not in this detachment, was he running any Doomstalkers?
there was I think two Doomstalkers. It was either one
Okay.
or two. It
Yeah.
was a bit more of a this was probably when I look back at this event, this was probably the worst list I played against.
Hmm.
It
Okay.
was a little bit too he didn't skew into anything, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna take two of a lot of stuff or one of something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the unit I was scared of the most was the Scorpek Lord and his destroyers,
Mm-hmm.
and he had only taken one unit of those. So
Okay.
I just, I knew where they were. I waited until they went out. They killed one thing. I'm like, cool. Now I get to kill it, and now I'm pretty much safe. I felt like after that unit was dead, I was like, a lot of your stuff doesn't really have good melee. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna just get as close as possible, charge a lot of stuff, and it worked out. It kind of It snowballed quite a bit. I ended
Yeah,
up
for
getting a
sure.
20-0,
Oh wow. Okay.
and we had expected a 10-10. We especially purged the foe. We expected a lot of draws
Yeah.
because it's so easy to draw. It's so easy to score primary in this. But if
Yeah.
if you snowball, like if you end up tabling your opponent, that's how you get 20 O's
Hmm.
in purge the foe specifically.
Yeah. It makes sense because I mean, it sounds like he was already behind, right? And he had to make like an all-in play to try to turn the
Yeah,
tide. It just like that's a gamble, right? Like either it works and
yeah.
great, you recover, or it doesn't and you lose even harder. So it seemed like it was
And
probably his only best bet of trying to recover from that.
yep. And when you think about it from a team perspective, 'cause he was talking about it after the game. He's like, I should have just held back and accepted the small loss
Yeah,
because that's more points for your team.
true, true. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
you have to put your ego aside in teams. You have to be like, I'm gonna lose this game. I'm gonna get as many points as possible and try and not make it a big loss.
True. That adds
Because
an entirely different dynamic to the whole like the whole outlook of a match.
yep, yep.
Interesting.
It's always better to small loss, I think, than to
Hmm.
gamble
For
to try
sure.
and get like, switch it from like a 13-7 to what, like a 12-8.
Yeah.
Because the downsides are now we're at 20-0, and that's huge.
Yeah, you're
That's a
getting no
huge thing.
points. Hey everyone, Votann Matt here, shamelessly interrupting to remind you all that we now have channel memberships available here on YouTube. Becoming a channel member or leaving us a super chat in the comment section below are two of the best ways to help support the channel and help us bring you new and exciting content every week. As a channel member, you'll get a special shout out at the start and end of each video, unlock exclusive emojis, and have a bigger say into what kind of content I will be putting out for you to view each week. So if you enjoy our videos and want to support us a little bit further, please consider sending us a super chat or becoming a channel member today. And with that said, let's get back to the video. Alright, okay. And what was it like for game two?
Game two, this was honestly, I think this was my best opponent, like
Mm-hmm.
skill wise. I think all my opponents were pretty good, but I think this guy was really good.
What was he
And
playing?
he was the Battle for Salvation orc player,
Oh, okay.
and he was playing War Horde orcs.
Okay.
We played Jay, so we played Lynchpin. This was the one where orcs are really good in this mission too, I think, because the way WoW works, it's like there's like when orcs play, they stage turn one, they WoW turn two,
Yeah.
they push you off all this primary, and the game is decided on can you pick up enough orcs and then swing back your points towards the tail end of the game.
Yeah, basically.
That's pretty much every orc game when I sit down and think about it. But it's really good in Lynchpin, right? Because your home objective gives you less points.
Mm-hmm.
It only gives you 3.
Yeah.
But all these other objectives in No Man's Lands are the ones that give you 5. So this was definitely a mission that benefited orcs more,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a lot of tools into killing orcs super well. Like plasma axes,
Yeah.
great into knobs. So good into knobs. Um, Same with the bike. Bike shooting is so good into knobs.
Yep, for sure.
And I like the way the game worked out was I I knew that if I got too close, he would wah and it would be disastrous.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I played really passive. He did something I've never seen before, which is a turn 3 wah.
Okay, so him too,
Because
he played pretty reserved.
because I was always pre-measuring, and I was always pre-measuring, making sure what's your maximum charge range from a disembark, advance, and charge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like from your trucks hiding behind these ruins. And I was always making it to where it'd either be like you need a 12 on this charge, or you need a maximum advance to get like even a 9,
Yeah.
right? And so the same thing played out. I played to Votann strengths. I'm like, my only goal is to 10-10. I ended up drawing better secondaries again.
Mm-hmm.
And now the game is looking like an 11-9, 12-8.
Nice.
And now my opponent is like, crap. What do I do? do I accept the small loss or do I try and gamble for a bigger win? And he he was reserved, like he hid behind his ruins until turn 3, then he wad, and he rolled so good on his advances. I remember he didn't roll I think the lowest he rolled was like a 5.
That's that's terrifying.
But he rolled like 5 6s in a row, and I was like, oh my god. And he ended up making all the charges he needed to make. But I made sure he never charged any of my bikes. None of my bikes were charged.
Okay.
The only things that were charged were Sagittars.
Yeah, you made like a little
And
shield wall in front.
yep. But like some Sagittars, I think almost all the Sagittars popped that were
Mm.
charged. I think I lost like 3 or 4. But I'm like, that's acceptable. Now Berserks are out. They go and the bikes are all still alive, right?
Hmm.
So I still have all of my damage is still on the table.
Yeah, it's like
And I still
my
have
turn.
yeah, and I still have most of my scoring
Hmm.
because, here pop out all the warriors ready to do actions. Here pop out berserks ready to punch. Also berserks, like everything in my list can do an action. I was never like agnostic on or I was always agnostic, right? Like nothing was a dedicated I can only do damage.
Hmm.
Everything could do an action if I needed it.
Yeah.
And that came up quite a few times because I was like, all right, berserks, like this berserk is charging here, this berserk is charging here. This unit of berserks is actually going to do the action on this terrain piece
Yeah.
because they were the ones in position to do it. And I just ended up he charged, picked up my Sagittars. I managed to push back onto my primary, and I finished the game strong. Like I won the game 12-8.
Nice. Okay.
If I had gone first, because I did not go first this game, I
Hmm.
think I would have gotten a bigger win if I had gone first.
Okay. Why is that?
But because there was a side objective that Mr. Snickrot, the lone operative,
Yeah.
he was gonna die to some bikes. I was 100% committed to killing this man, this orc, with bikes. But because he got first turn, he moved him back, and I was like, oh,
Okay.
and he moved a unit of grots forward, and
Yeah.
now I was not willing to trade a unit of bikes for a unit of grots.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, okay, I accept you. You have secured this objective now for the rest of the game, right? I will uppy downy my bikes back over into my deployment zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But that's how that game went. I ended up getting a small win, which was what we had expected in the
Right. Yeah.
Matrix.
Exactly. Like anything more
I
than that is great, but that's what your goal was.
yeah, yeah. We in the matchup specifically, a 12-8 I think is Votann's kind of expected outcome,
Hmm.
and that's exactly what I got. So
Right, and it was into one of
I'm
your
okay with
toughest matchups from what you said, right? Like best player that you had faced
it. Yeah,
with like a
it
really
was
well
it was
constructed list.
my faction was good into his,
Hmm.
but player skill was very challenging, I think.
Okay,
So
I find it really cool that the way you design your list, like how you were mentioning that, it's very agnostic in terms of like who's doing what, like what your roles are. Everybody is so cheap, like points cost, that you don't feel bad if something sits back and has to
yep,
be out of the action for a turn. Versus like the elite triple Landfort list, it's like, ugh, like do I want to get these 2 points or do I want to just try to shoot something off of an objective? You got to make all of these calculated decisions for it, but it kind of sounds really nice to just sit back and say, okay, like you know
yeah,
what, I'll wait. I know I could score everything. I'll always outscore you on secondaries as long as like I don't really get
yeah,
bad cards. And it sounds like it forces your opponent to have to start playing a little trickier and try to hopefully make a mistake. And then after that's when
yep,
you capitalize on it with all the bikes. So that's cool. I really like the I like the design you went for with this. It's really it's a fresh
yep,
take I think on a lot of other lists we've been seeing pop up.
yep. And everything can do an action in your list.
Yeah.
Never. Uthar's the best action monkey you've got, right?
Dude, I'm
So
gonna try him. I'm telling you, I'm gonna bake him into my list. I gotta test this out because I called it out, man. I was talking to my friend. I'm like, this guy looks really interesting. He's like he reduces damage to 0. If I want to do that stupid action, it takes like a whole turn to go through. I'll throw him into a ruin. He's gonna do it for me, no problem. and I just never
Yep.
got around to it because I don't even have him. I'm just gonna have to proxy like a Cal to do it. But yeah, like
And
that's cool. I gotta try this out.
what I really like is because you can be like, here's my 5 warriors or my 5 berserks in a
Mm.
Sagittar. He takes up the 6th slot in the Sagittar, and now you have 2 units in a Sagittar, and so you can
Yeah,
have a unit behind it. You can sit behind a ruin. You can throw out warriors one turn, and then you can throw out Uthar another turn.
yeah,
And it's I have been dying for a Rhino for this exact purpose. I wish God, if our codex could just give us a Rhino, I'd be so happy.
yeah,
Like, please, please give me a Rhino.
yeah.
Like, it's such. I didn't know how much I craved rhinos until I saw other people using them, and I was like,
I mean, you got a
that's
really
really nice.
expensive rhino with a land fort. You could you
I
could
know.
slap a bunch of warriors in there.
You can fit so many warriors in that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I another
Oh,
idea I had was to try that with berserks, like 2 squads of 5 berserks inside of a land fort, and so that's like the party bus, you know.
yeah,
You just slap them out like one turn at a time until like an objective, and they just keep running in endlessly and dying and
you
scoring
could.
your points.
And I think that's what I really want to try, right? I do want to put that on the table,
Yeah,
like because
that might
the
be
land fort
interesting.
is it's doing it's doing decent shooting. It's not like the craziest shooting ever, but
Hmm.
it's better than it's better than anything else in your army, right? Other
Yeah,
than bikes.
100%. Yeah.
And now you can have like this, 2 unit berserk because the hecaton it's going to take some dedicated effort. So you can be like shoot with hecaton, disembark 1 unit of berserks. They trade, they die. Next turn you do the same thing.
Yeah, the
So
land
like,
forts don't die, man. Like I went to an RTT last weekend or the weekend before, and the only game I lost land forts in was against Sisters, because like Melta
yeah,
is instantly
yep,
like six
yep.
plus two like every time, but they just don't die.
That sisters, by the way, was my only loss in practice.
They're hard. They're really
Yeah,
tough, man.
yeah.
Um,
They are what they are. We all know what they are now at this
yeah,
point.
we all know what they really are.
Eldari in disguise.
Yeah, like oh my god, it was so funny because like I knew I wasn't gonna win that game. First time into Sisters ever, so already I'm like the odd like the favors with them. I'm not gonna probably come out of this on top, and whatever. We played the game. It was like relatively close, and then after the game ended, I was like walking around like the store to go check out like the other tables and stuff, and like I overhear like the Sisters player talking with her friend. And they're like, oh, like, how did your game one go? And she's like, oh, like, it was against Votann. I got like, like a 15-point win. And he's like, yeah, Voltann's a pretty honest army. And she's like, yeah, and I was Sisters. And it's like, yeah.
we're
Yeah.
we're playing the most, like it's not much, but it's honest work Warhammer.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
exactly.
sisters players are over here like, I didn't do 10 damage with my Melta. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna, after this call, I'm gonna make an order. I gotta pick up a couple of squads of berserks. I'm gonna put that inside of my land fort, and then I'm gonna grab Uthar and throw him in a Sagittar.
Yeah. Oh God. It was really good. It felt really good to play.
That's cool. All right, so talk us
Game
through
three.
game three.
Oh gosh, this was so I was put into this matchup. Um,
Okay.
I think T Suns is a small loss for Votann. It's one of our
Mm-hmm.
few small losses. I think Sisters, T Suns, ooh, and there's some like Dark Angels. I think are a
Mm-hmm.
small loss as well. But T Suns is always really scary because of the tricks that they can use. Like they have been
Right.
blessed with some incredible rules this edition.
Yeah.
And a lot of our like they do mortals, we have almost no defense versus mortals.
Mm-hmm.
They have a Primarch with damage reduction and
Yeah.
2-up armor, which like I went into this game like I'm never killing Magnus. I'm not even going to try. I'm going to kill everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a hard matchup. They You should expect a small loss from T Suns,
Okay.
but I was paired into this because once again the rest of my team had pretty big losses into T Suns,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had to, once again, I'm Frodo. I am taking the ring to Mordor.
You're like all
And
beaten and bruised by this point. Like, all right, next.
I know I'm beaten and bruised as I'm getting these wins.
Yeah.
Like I'm Frodo with like mithril armor, full plate, just like dumpstering every orc I come across. But
Yeah, literally.
but but this one I 100% expected to lose.
Hmm.
But what was this mission was Scorched Earth, so a pretty standard mission. It's like a hold one, hold two, and maybe somebody raises an objective,
Hmm.
but it's otherwise it's a pretty normal mission. And I was put into it because everyone else had bigger losses, and I'm a T-Sense player.
Yeah.
So I knew everything T-Sense could do.
Okay.
And this was huge in this game because I think if this player had actually gone into somebody else, there would have been mistakes made, like rules mistakes.
Hmm.
And that would have caught my other teammates off guard if they weren't 100% fully acclimatized
Oh,
with T-Sense
really?
rules.
Okay, so you
Yes.
you caught out like some errors in the rules
Yeah.
interpretation. Okay,
It,
interesting.
yeah. And it's not like he's not out here cheating. I'm not saying this at all.
Hmm.
This is not 100%. This is like small errors in like, I didn't read the sentence fully or
Hmm.
like, whatever small errors that could be that could lead to bigger consequences,
Right.
right?
Yeah. It's also like, from what I've seen, a pretty complex army in terms of
It is. It
interactions.
it is a hard army. I am not out here trying to say this player cheats. This is not happening, right? Like
Yeah.
I knew what T Suns does,
Hmm.
and so and we knew this happens a lot with this army. This is not a player issue, this is a faction issue, right?
Hmm.
And like how many times have you heard people like trying to extend ranges on their flamers, right?
Yeah.
Like let's add 9 inches to our flamers.
Hmm.
And it's like, no, those aren't psychic weapons. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Hmm.
Like that type of stuff happens all the time with this army. And so
Right.
it ended up being a medium win for me. I got 14-6.
Okay.
And um turn one, the reason why I got a win was because turn one, he had rubrics and he knew that I could scout forward with bikes. And we had measured it where only half of the bikes out of the 6 man could shoot into a unit of rubrics.
Okay.
And the Lord of Forbidden Lore sorcerer, so the double ritual sorcerer,
Hmm.
was attached to this unit.
Oh yeah, all in for sure.
Yeah, and so I look at it, I get first turn, and I'm like, okay, I know I've got first turn, and I know what this sorcerer does. This is this is a key unit to Thousand Suns, right?
Hmm.
I had to take the opportunity to go kill this unit if possible.
You have to try.
Even if
Yeah.
it even if it's only half of the bikes, right? Because I'm already getting a small loss. And if I can go and just at least kill the rubrics, suddenly this guy is hiding for the rest of the game
Hmm.
instead of ever trying to really do damage. And he would still be doing whatever he needs to do, but a lot of the damage aspect of that unit would be reduced. And so I
Right.
thought that was even if this doesn't pan out 100%, I felt like that was good enough. And the payout if it works 100% is
It's
incredible.
great. Yeah, for sure.
Right? Yep. And so this is where because my opponent when we had rolled for first turn and I had gotten first turn, he was like, "All right, well here's my cabal points," and I had to be like, "Ah, wait, I got first turn. You don't get any cabal points yet."
Ah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's a huge deal because now he doesn't get the reroll save,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the free reroll save, and he doesn't get access to the free strat to reduce damage to 0. He can still
Yeah.
spend CP for it, right? But that's a huge deal.
No, that's
And
massive.
I ended up killing the sorcerer exactly down to the wound.
Damn.
If he had a reroll or one more CP, I do not kill this model.
Yeah.
But I killed the Lord of Forbidden Lore sorcerer turn one, and that was a huge deal. That means he never double ritualed. He
Oh,
ended
that's
up losing
brutal.
out. right? He lost out on all his Cabal points for the rest of the game. And I never touched Magnus. I never even considered it. I was
Hmm.
just picking off Infernal Masters and Rubric squads left and right, like
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
what you
yeah.
revealed. I'm picking this up. And looking back at this game, I made a mistake in a Rapid Ingress play.
Okay.
And I will never Rapid Ingress against Thousand Suns again.
What happened?
Be- Because Temporal Surge.
Ah, yeah,
Temporal Surge on Magnus.
yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna Rapid Ingress. Because in my mind, I'm like, I can Rapid Ingress these bikes. They can move out, shoot something, charge onto one of his objectives, and steal primary.
Hmm.
Which is a play I had been doing a lot. I love using bikes for that. They Rapid Ingress, move out, kill something, charge, steal primary.
Okay.
It's incredible. I love bikes for that. And I thought I was gonna do that in this game. But Thousand Suns are the one army that goes like, ha ha! Started my shooting phase. I move at Magnus 14 inches. Now he has vision and he picks up the whole unit of bikes. And
Oh
it's
my
like, oh my
God.
God. Right? Like,
Yeah.
when I made that play, I was like, oh my God, what have I
Yeah,
done? I
like
thought I
there
threw
goes
the
your
game.
swing from the early
Yeah,
game.
right. I thought I threw it back. I was like, he gave me the Lord of Forbidden Lore Sorcerer, and I threw it back right to him. But
Yeah.
at that point, I had already secured a big enough lead
Okay,
where
okay.
it didn't
At
matter.
least.
But
I
but whew,
yeah, no, that's close.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many. It's one of those factions, right, where there are so many little tricks that like it's hard for the player to keep track of all of them. And as the opponent, what are you gonna do on the receiving end? But
yeah,
yeah, no, that's a good move. Yeah, the Magnus,
yeah,
the double move Magnus is always rough.
yeah. And this was gonna be an 18 too,
Hmm.
but Thousand Suns are blessed with secret missions in
Yes.
Pariah Nexus.
Yeah.
They can do the Warlord secret mission,
Hmm.
and they can do the Umberlific Crystal, throw rubrics into your backfield,
True.
turn 5, so easily. They have access to two basically on-demand secret missions.
Yeah.
So they're incredible in teams
And he was going
because
second, so
yes, there was I knew when he was going second, like the second I knew like who went first, second, I'm like he's getting a secret mission.
yeah.
If he's losing, he's getting a secret mission because Magnus was never dying, and I was probably if he just never revealed the Umberlific Crystal sorcerers,
Hmm.
I was never gonna get them. And so he was just gonna have access to this a free 20 points basically, right?
Right.
Um, which is exactly what happened. But I had managed to get enough of an advantage to where it only went to a 14-6
Okay.
instead
Yeah,
of
that would have been
like
frustrating to lose to that after
yeah,
all your
if
work
it
at the
was
start.
like a 14-6 into a 10-10, I would have been depressed
Yeah.
big time. But it was not that. So we managed to pull out once again. I took a big loss from my team and
Mm.
turned it into a win. That's
Yeah, solid.
basically 3 games in a row where we've looked at this list and been like, this is a majority of losses for our matrix. And
Is so
but
I have a question for you. This is the first event that you've tried this kind of archetype out, right? Because from
yeah,
what I was saying before, you were
yeah,
doing the three land for it. So,
yep.
what were your expectations? Did you just feel like you'd be able to just get tie games? Did you think you'd get any wins out of these events,
So
or?
yeah, I thought I was if I was gonna win, I thought it'd be small wins.
Hmm.
Um, and but I expected draws.
Okay.
I felt like in my practice games, I was like, it's really hard for me to apply the pressure to still like to really hold my opponent down to get 20 O's. That
Right.
like say for example like a Blood Angels player could do,
Hmm.
right? Or like orcs can do, right? If everything pops off. That
Yeah.
type of like we wah or we move 12 inches with jump packs and advance and charge, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that type of like in your face damage doesn't really exist in Votann.
Hmm.
It's much more nuanced. It's
Hmm.
I come on the flanks, I pick off this unit, or I throw 3 Sagittars at this to pick this up. But
Yeah.
it's never you're never really hopping from like ruin to ruin across no man's land.
Yeah.
to go pick their stuff up with this huge wave of units. It's different. You're fighting for no man's land. You should always be. I think you should be playing more passively with
Yep,
Votann and just
100%.
fighting for no man's land. And I think a lot of my big wins have been because I was getting small wins, and my opponents were like, "Hey, I don't want you to get a small win. I'm going to try and gamble," and it didn't pay off.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do feel like there's a certain amount of restraint you need to have when you're playing Votann, and you're actually better off just for the first turn at least, just being really passive with it. Like you want your opponent to make a mistake, you want your opponent to come out or overextend, and then that's when, like you said, you have multiple things that could just together pick up the target.
Yep, and you have so many different ways, right? You could be like, "All right, here's the unit of bikes. They're going to do X amount of shooting." And I also have like two Sagittars to help them with like last cannons and some bolters. And if that doesn't work, I've got some warriors with grenades, or I've got some berserks with melee, or I've got a tank shock Sagittar.
Yeah.
There's so many different outs you have into killing something that is thrown at you.
Yeah, you got to get
But it's very,
creative with it.
yeah, you do have to get creative. But I think with this list, it's everywhere on the table, right? Like it's everywhere. So you gotta apply the right resources to do damage
Okay.
at different parts of the table.
Yeah.
But the only time I felt like I was really ever aggressive was rapid ingressing bikes,
Mm-hmm.
moving them 12 into like the middle, uh, kind of towards the middle. It would be more in like my opponent's side, and then charging onto one of their objectives to steal primary. That's the only time.
Right. And you could rapid ingress a squad of bikes that you've brought back into reserves from the table, right? Because it still counts as being in the reserves.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I, turn one, I'm like, all right, I'm taking this unit of bikes. They're going to reserves, and I hold them until like turn three. I could still rapid ingress them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very powerful. I always want to try experimenting with bigger squads of bikes. I don't have the bikes, and like it's honestly torture to put them together. So I just
Yeah.
don't know if I have it in me. But
I still have to build six. I have to get six more bikes, and
yeah.
it's like, oh my god.
I think if the codex gets announced and there are no new models, or like no new second wave, I should say, we'll probably get something, but like if there's no second wave, I think I'll go all in on the bikes and pick more up. But
Mhm.
that's what I'm probably holding out for, just to see what gets dropped.
I'm so they've kind of had for a lot of these codexes, they've had like assault, like give your whole army assault
Hmm.
type detachments.
Yeah.
If Votann gets a detachment like that, bikes are insane, right?
Yeah, bikes are big money.
Yeah. So I'm probably just I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get 18 and I'm gonna accept it. And I'm
Yeah, you're
gonna
gonna take the risk.
yeah.
Ah, dude. I don't know.
It's just there's too much precedent.
Yeah, what if the book comes out and they're like, you can only take them in squads of 3?
I have a collection of 18 bikes. I don't know.
Okay, then I'll reach out to you and I'll buy them off you.
I will be a classic Votann hoarding all the
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, okay. So going into game 3, you've surprised yourself. You've surprised the team, I'd imagine. And
Yes, my
is
team was
Frodo still
shocked at
going
this
strong
point.
at this point? Has Frodo taken
Frodo
a
is
beating?
suddenly Aragorn.
Oh my god.
Suddenly, well, my friend who I
Reborn.
drove up with
Yeah.
he's Aragorn. What am I? I am because he ended up getting fourth overall in the team event.
Oh
I
wow,
think it was
nice.
fourth or fifth. He was playing sisters.
Oh,
He
okay.
went. He got a perfect 5-0, almost 20-0'd every
Hmm.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's what sisters
I
do,
was like,
right?
oh
That was
wow, it's
in
like
our
sisters. I'm like, oh okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
What's
I'm sure it's
hilarious,
still
by the
good.
way,
Yeah.
he doesn't even own sisters,
What?
and he borrowed the army just for the event, and he played like two practice games before the
Wow.
event. It was hilarious, but he's an incredible player. This
Oh, for
isn't like
sure, for sure.
yeah, this isn't just like the army
No,
is
hundred
cheesy.
percent. We're joking
This
about
was
it, obviously. Like it takes
like
skill to pilot a list you've
yeah.
never touched before.
Historically he has done very well at GT. So
Nice.
this is not like I'm 2 weeks into playing Warhammer
Yeah,
type
yeah,
player. This is like I'm a veteran Warhammer player, right? And I'm picking up an army with incredible rules that
yeah.
I already know how to use.
Hey, you're on an interview right now. You can say whatever you want about him, and he can't say anything to defend himself.
No, I like he's a great player. He knows who he is.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, okay. So
So,
going into game four, right? Was this a 5 game
yep.
event? Yeah, okay.
Yes, this was 5 game event, and this was my one draw.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
and this was actually I expected a small win,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended up being a 10-10 draw. And that's because Vanguard, I played against a Vanguard detachment Marine player,
Oh, okay.
and the 3-inch deep strike actually kind of threw me off a little bit.
Hmm.
The uppy downy. This was also the second round of the day. I didn't have as much. This is the first time I've ever played against Vanguard Marines.
Mm-hmm.
I've read about them before, but this is the first time playing against them.
Okay.
And I wasn't ready for the constant uppy downies
Right.
that they also brought. I was only expecting my own uppy downy. And
Wait, that's not fair.
yeah, yeah, how dare you, right? Like and it ended up being a draw. I got first turn. My Jaegers didn't pop off to get the turn one CP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he he ended up like he held a really good position on the side of the board. I think we were the last pair. We had gone all the way down, so we were just handed the table that we were given.
Okay, yeah, that was gonna be
And
my question. Like, how I'm surprised that you got paired into him because I feel like Space Marines in general
yeah,
feel like a very approachable matchup, but it makes sense now if you were just like forced into each other.
yeah. He had he had a really good board position because he also had infiltrators
Mm-hmm.
and he secured it. And then he had this unit of like aggressors slam dunk into this ruin because he had secured with his scout squad, he had secured that land in no man's.
Right.
And it kind of gave him so many points for the entire game. I couldn't ever dislodge him because
Mm.
if I came in on the side of the board, I wasn't going to get an angle on what I needed to shoot. And then he was just going to be able to hop out and shoot me and pick up whatever bikes I brought onto the table.
Right.
So in this matchup, I had to just kind of accept. Once again I played passively, and I just had to accept. He was there. He was scoring his points. I was also scoring my points. We drawed,
Okay.
and that's exactly what I wanted, and it's what the team expected. So
Okay. So still, I mean,
no,
still a win in the eyes of you and the team.
yeah, it was a 4 point singles win, and
Hmm.
in my last turn, I made a choice to because I didn't know what secondaries he was going to draw.
Okay.
Because going into this, I was like, I have a small lead. It's going to be a draw, but I could have thrown a unit of warriors and risked Centurion Overwatch.
Okay.
But if just one warrior lived, I would have gotten banners on an
Yeah.
objective and gotten 11-9.
Oh, nice.
But say he draws like no prisoners or overwhelming force. Because these were, I knew which secondaries he hadn't drawn yet.
Hmm.
And he had a bunch of kill me secondaries. And I accepted to not, I was like, I'm not going to push for a risky event to happen. I'm not going to risk you drawing these super good secondaries.
Right.
I'm just going to accept the draw. And he ended up not drawing them.
Okay.
And so looking, it's hindsight, right? Like looking back, I'm like, I could have pushed for an 11-9. It was very possible, but I made the choice to not risk giving up the 10-10.
Right. And this goes back to a lot of what you were saying, right? Like some of your opponents who could have had a tighter game went for that riskier play, and it actually hurt their team as a whole.
Yeah.
So I think
You,
you had the right mindset. Like if this was a singles event, like just go for it, try it out, probably, right? Like there's a 50-50 chance you might swing the win if it's a draw, but in the team's event,
yeah.
there's a little bit more of a resistance, right? You gotta actually like be a little
Yeah.
bit more restrained.
Because in singles, right? I'm looking at this, I'm like, only a 4 point lead. I'm like, that's not enough. Like, but like in singles, I'm like, that is not enough. I need to do something, right?
Yeah.
But in team events, you take a step back and go, that's enough. I've done what I needed to do.
That's fascinating.
So
Okay, so that's great, dude. I'm really excited to try Teams Event because it really seems like a fun collaborative experience where your whole
yeah,
mindset is completely different from going into something alone.
all about your team.
Hey everyone, Votann Matt here, shamelessly interrupting to remind you all that we now have channel memberships available here on YouTube. Becoming a channel member or leaving us a super chat in the comment section below are two of the best ways to help support the channel and help us bring you new and exciting content every week. As a channel member, you'll get a special shout out at the start and end of each video, unlock exclusive emojis, and have a bigger say into what kind of content I will be putting out for you to view each week. So if you enjoy our videos and want to support us a little bit further, please consider sending us a super chat or becoming a channel member today. And with that said, let's get back to the video. All right, so you draw up on turn 4 into surprisingly the army that you thought you'd get the win on, and going
Yeah.
into round 5, who are you up against?
Hypercrypt Necron.
Okay, nice.
So this typical uppy downy
Mm-hmm.
3-inch deep strike Necrons.
Yeah.
I have had experience with this detachment before, so I know what they're doing. Um, I remember this list very specifically. It was Silent King, 2 Transcendents, the Nightbringer, the
Mm-hmm.
Void Dragon, and a bunch of Death Marks and Hex Marks.
Okay. Yeah, so he's just
And
going to
and
score
because
everything.
yep, he was also I'm gonna score points.
Yeah.
But he had these tools of here's a ton of half damage Catan.
Yeah.
Like he had all of them they could bring, right? He had two Transcendents, the Void Dragon, the Void or whatever. What's the Void?
The Void Dragon guy
God,
who's like anti-vehicle, I think.
there's one that's anti-vehicle, the Nightbringer.
The
That's what it is. He
Nightbringer.
had the Nightbringer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the best Catan,
So
the
he had
Nightbringer for sure.
yeah. So but half damage against Votann. Suddenly my plasma axes suck,
Mm-hmm.
and my bike shooting is not nearly as good.
Mm.
But before this game started, I two of my teams were Necron players,
Okay.
and they took me to the side and they walked me through what I need to judge and what I need to kill, and I took that knowledge in mind and it played out perfect. So they told
Nice.
me you need to judge the Silent King,
Mm-hmm.
you need to judge the Void Dragon, the Nightbringer, and your fourth one is whatever you want.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, so I'm like, I don't ever worry about the transcendence. And they're like, you never touch a transcendent. You just let the transcendents are what they are. You just let them exist. They do whatever they do, and you move on.
The
You kill everything
Transcendents
else.
teleport, right? When they advance, they
Yep,
just like, okay, yeah.
yep,
So annoying.
yep, yep. And they have damage, right? It's just like they're going to be put in positions where it's really hard for me to kill them.
Hmm.
And so I don't worry about them. I just accept whatever damage they're doing. It's not enough. Whatever they're doing is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so it ended up. Which mission did we play? I got a big win. It was Ritual, and it was
Okay.
18-2.
Oh,
And
nice.
Votann are so good at Ritual
Yeah.
because we have so many units to go do this action to create an objective,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Especially your list.
yep, and then we sticky it, and then we're playing the game we want to play. We're playing passively,
Mm-hmm.
and we're getting like hold 3,
Yeah.
right? And we're just maxing our secondaries, we're maxing our primary, and I don't have to go to my opponent. I'm just doing what I can.
Yeah, you just set them up in cover and you you chill. Sticky and chill.
Yeah. And my opponent is like, do I need to get a big win out of this? Because this was a close game. We were fighting, by the way, so our team ended up getting 6th.
Okay.
But if either one of our teams won, we would have gotten 3rd at the event.
Oh,
And
okay.
and so fighting for wins was huge. Like going into this, everyone wanted to win, right?
Hmm.
No matter who you were, every player wanted a big win because this it was integral for your team to win. If you wanted a podium,
Yeah,
You
this was
needed
it.
your team
This
to
is the
like,
game.
yeah, yeah. And so he once again he made the choice. He's like, I need to commit. And so this this was the game where my Jaegers, I got turn one and they went up. I judged with my fourth judgment token. I judged a unit of death marks
Okay.
and I AP4 knifed, killed them all. Like,
Okay.
but it came real close. Like, this is why I said I instead of the sniper rifle, get rid of it because I chose not to even shoot the sniper rifle a few times,
Hmm.
just because I wanted to charge and
Okay.
kill it with AP4 knives.
Yeah.
And so, but it was real close. Like looking back, I could have like it could have been a bad play because then he would have had one model left. Then he could uppy downy that one model with that
Yeah.
small base
Yeah. It goes
and
anywhere he
score whatever
wants.
second. Yeah, the Spore Mine Necron player. I don't know if he would have. I don't know if protocol is required. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
That's
not
not a
sure.
question I've ever asked a Necron player. But if he didn't have to, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, they got me my grunt birthday party. They they died. The Transcendence came for them.
They got you
And
your
then
birthday party.
turn yeah, they died the most glorious death.
Yeah.
Like but then turn two, the Silent King and a whole bunch of the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer all
Hmm.
revealed themselves.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna throw everything. I'm gonna throw, I'm gonna send my bikes in, I'm gonna shoot all my Sagittarius into this stuff.
Hmm.
And I even threw out Uthar because I'm like, Uthar, I need your pocket mortals. And and I popped off with my damage. I rolled a pretty good amount of sixes on my
Hmm.
Sagittarius with the last cannons.
Nice.
And I ended up picking up like the Silent King, the Nightbringer,
Oh
and the
wow.
Void Dragon.
In one turn, that's crazy.
And yeah, and one of the what is it? The Plasma Axe Berserks were also really good at picking up the Hexmark. What's that lone op character? The Gloctopus.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
who
it.
like overwatches on twos. Yeah,
Yeah, bro, he sweats when he sees some Hearthguard or not Hearthguard, some Berserks charging at him with
yeah.
Plasma Axes.
Sweats.
He sweats so hard. I chopped up both Hexmarks with Plasma Axes
Oh my
that game.
god.
Like they're so good. And using the judgment token like from the call,
Hmm.
this game was really interesting. That helped. The enhancement, the appraising glare enhancement, I haven't really talked about it, but that enhancement was amazing.
Yeah, appraising
Um
glare is I think it's essential to like any competitive
yeah.
Votann list. Like you just need that. The ability to just pick an objective and like your whole army gets +1 to hit against whoever's on it is crazy.
It was really good this game because of what ended up on objectives
Hmm.
throughout the course of this game. It was flipping ones to twos a lot of the time, and those ones to twos were then translating into extra AP because you need two judgment tokens to get AP2
Yeah.
plasma axes, and that's what I needed.
Okay,
So
so like how are you using your Cal in these games? Does he just kind of sit back and try to get
yeah,
angles to get line of sight? Yeah.
so no, so the call he stands on the back objective.
Mm-hmm.
It was the warriors sticky it, but he's not attached to the warriors,
Yeah.
and he stands back there, and he sends out judgment tokens, and then he ends up moving out later and does actions.
Okay, interesting.
That's all he does. And usually the five warriors were always screening the backfield for.
Okay. Does he need he needs line of sight for his passive
Oh,
one, right? Not his appraising glare
yeah.
though.
I never used his passive.
Okay, you never use his passive. Okay.
Never.
So in that
I
case,
I used Uthar.
yeah, Uthar. Oh, Uthar
Because
has it too.
Uthar, yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Okay.
Uthar is see you in the command phase,
Mm-hmm.
give you a judgment token, because he can actually stand in somebody's vision and not be guaranteed to die,
Right. Yeah.
right?
That's cool. Okay.
Before, because he's Uthar.
Yeah.
It actually takes some effort to kill him. So Uthar, yeah, he was pretty good. Like he did give me some extra judgment tokens throughout all of my games.
Mm-hmm.
He was really annoying. He tagged stuff. He did actions. He was pocket mortals. I can't tell you. There were quite a few times where he's like, "All right, I roll up to punch something.
Yeah.
I roll like a natural 6 or sometimes even 2 natural 6s, I flip a dice to a 6. I've done 6 mortals to you now. Like, and I've already thrown grenades and tank shock. Like suddenly I'm a Thousand Suns player.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
like what's going on?
I need to try this
Um,
guy out. I have to try
yeah.
this.
No, he's 80 points. You know, you're gonna get 80 points worth of stuff out of him, right?
Hmm.
But he's so flexible. He's so annoying. Yeah, all my opponents were like, "That's the most annoying character."
Right, like I
He,
feel like it's pretty good. Just turning damage to 0 is like really
well,
powerful. Or to 1,
he
sorry.
reduces it to yeah to 1. It's huge. Like the what's that damage 6 gun? It's on the heavy destroyers
Yeah.
for the Necrons.
Hmm.
'Cause I played against Necrons twice, and both of them brought this model, and it's like we don't even shoot Uthar with this gun because I get one shot and he reduces it to 1,
Yeah.
and he also has a Farp Invuln, and it's like, oh,
It's not
crazy.
even once. It's like every attack. Like each
Yeah,
attack
yeah.
allocated to this model changed the damage characteristic to 1.
You
Wait,
take
that's
an
kind of
average of
crazy.
10 saves. If you make Uthar roll 10 saves, he dies.
That is so
But
funny.
it takes 10 saves. No
Yeah.
more, no less, unless somebody tank shocks him, and then you're depressed.
Then you're depressed, yeah, because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do
My
anything
one
there.
weakness, tank shock.
Getting run over by one weakness. So okay, wait. I'm just curious because for the Cal, you said you're not taking him for his actual passive ability, but at that point, would there not be more value in taking like an E-champ, for example, who comes in at 60 points?
Yeah. So I would change the list to
Okay,
actually have the E champ. Yeah, that is something I would do.
okay, okay.
Um, you take him with the 4 up invuln.
Hmm.
He's got a better armor save.
Yeah,
Um, I just took a call because I was like, look, it's a call. um,
yeah.
but the E champ would have been better in that role,
Okay,
and
okay.
I would have then had 30 points left over in my list with nothing to spend them on.
Yeah.
Because currently my list is 1980, and I'm like,
Oh
there's
wow.
nothing else I can do, right?
Ah, that
And
gives me a lot of anxiety when I get to like that area of a point in a list, and I just feel like it's
yeah,
wrong. It feels illegal, but
just
it's
accept it.
not. Yeah, like if your list works, it works.
Yeah, so that is the one. That is the one change I would make, I think, to this list is take out the generic call.
Hmm.
You already have Uthar,
Yeah,
and you take the E-champ with a hammer and a 4 up invuln, and whatever comes into your backfield is slightly more scared.
yeah. Okay, so everything else in the list felt good. The numbers were fine as well. All the bikes, all the Sagittars. So really, the
Yeah.
only change is this: just the Cal out and the E champion. Even though you got 30 points
Yep.
left over. Okay.
Yep.
Cool, yeah. It's I mean, look, man, it's a unique list, let me tell you that. And undefeated at NATC,
I
pretty
know.
good. Pretty good.
It was
You should
exciting.
definitely
I
be
was
proud of that, man. It's well earned. Very good.
yes. Thank you.
So I do have one question. Now, after playing this list, can you ever see yourself going back to an Elite 3 Landford list?
Not in Pariah Nexus.
Yeah, okay.
I think Pariah Nexus. That was the more than Jaeger's releasing. Pariah Nexus changed how we play 40k.
Hmm.
As Votann, it changed what we need to do
Hmm.
with our lists. And like Hearthguard are detrimental to what Pariah Nexus wants us to do.
Yeah.
Which is, crazy, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the Hearthguard have been a staple for Votann for so long. Like
Hmm.
that has historically been our best data sheet, right? And it's been a
Yeah.
crime. It's been a sin to not take Hearthguard. But with Pariah Nexus requiring so many units and Hearthguard requiring the tools that they need to be delivered,
Hmm.
kind of you don't have space for the Hearthguard, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I do feel like in my own games that I've been playing, it's you you gotta let the secondaries go a lot more than you're probably comfortable with if they come up in a turn like in the middle of the game when you don't have the resources left to dedicate
Hmm.
something to go get rid of it, and like you just wish you had that one extra activation. So it does feel like it's a more activation focused like patch for 40k for sure. um yeah, like I've been looking online at some of the lists, and I did see, I think for the WTC event, like one of them isn't running Hearthguard at all, and you go, oh, that's crazy, but it kind of makes sense. If you're just going for points,
Hmm.
you don't necessarily need that, and you have the output, you have the speed with the bikes to get something off of an objective, and then just like auto see if you have to.
Yeah.
The warriors also, you just dump the warriors out. You yeet them out of the Sagittar behind a wall, and they get on the objective. So yeah, I think it's a different kind of game now, honestly, which is unfortunate because I just got my third land for it like a week and a half
I know.
ago.
I I painted all three hackathons. I finished them like the very last week of May,
Mhm.
but it was the last week of May. It was the last week before we knew Pariah Nexus and Jaegers were releasing. So like I did my Reddit post, look at my three hackathons, boys. I got my upvotes. I'm like, wow, beautiful. And then it's like, I'm never playing with you. It was so depressing
Oh, it
because in
breaks
my
my
practice
heart.
it was depressing because it was like I played all my practice games with like half painted hackathon.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
finally get them painted and I have not put them on the table after they've been fully
Uh,
painted. And it's
it's
just like,
tragic.
oh my God.
It's
But
so
I, I
discouraging.
I could see there's that one list, the Team England list for
Hmm.
WTC.
Yeah.
He's using hecatons, right? He's like running four Sagittars, two hecatons.
Yeah, like I don't think they're bad. Like they're still a
Yeah.
very good data sheet. Like they're well
Yeah.
costed, they're tough to shift, like they're definitely good, but that inclusion
Yeah.
of four Sagittars is what helps counterbalance, I
Hmm.
think, just the weight
Yeah.
of having such an elite unit in your list. Like I'm running two Sagittars, and like now I want to get a third one in somehow. So I do think I'm gonna drop one of my Hearthguard squads out for sure. And like honestly, like I might even drop two and just keep one inside of a land for just to like
Yeah.
delete a Catan. Like you pop out, you shoot it, it dies, and then your whole list goes to score other things. But I do think like you gotta balance that output with primary, and like for secondaries you need to have the activations or else you're gonna suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
All right, so what's next in store for you, Jordan? You got any other events lined up? Any tournaments? Any new hobby stuff? What do you got going on?
I'm painting. I'm getting more bikes. Finally, I don't have to borrow any.
Yeah.
And my next team event is gonna be DreamHack Atlanta.
DreamHack Atlanta. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then
When
I
is
don't know if I'll
that?
go. That is October 4th through the 6th, I
That's
think.
interesting. Maybe I'll try to
Around
convince my startup team if they want to if they want to dream for DreamHack.
there. I know. It'll be tough competition there. I
Yeah,
think like
100%.
historically like a ton of good teams are going.
Hmm.
Um, so it's gonna be some trying times for the kid at that event.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
and I think it's also gonna end up being after the next balance data slate, which
Yes, yeah, I will. Wait, I think did
I
they
don't
say
know.
they're
I don't
delaying
know.
it? They might have
I
said
don't
they're
know.
gonna delay it an extra like quarter, I think. I'm not
I
sure.
don't know. If it's like the last week of September, I think because they probably don't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not some TO for DreamHack, so I don't know. I don't know
Speculation.
what they would do. Like, it would be very scary to be like, here's a balanced data slate, and a week later play DreamHack with new rules.
Yeah, no, they're gonna wait. They're gonna for sure wait for DreamHack to
Yeah,
pass. It's like it's the big event. Everybody's talking about it.
yeah. I don't. I'm pretty safe with Votann though. I think going into the next balanced data slate, I don't think they're doing anything too crazy right now. I think they are as they have been for the past.
Yeah, like we don't get much in
Um,
terms of changes, honestly. Like it stays relatively stable.
yeah, we don't do anything crazy. We're not a broken like we play fair 40k, right?
Yeah.
Like
I do think we're in
Oh, we
like the
do.
perfect spot to be for an army. Like you could buy everything pretty confidently and know that whatever's viable will probably be viable still. And our model range is so small that like you can't go wrong buying like two or three of
Yeah.
everything and then you're set. Okay, all right. So not too much else going on outside of the events and just general hobbying
No.
and picking up the bikes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Pretty
Okay.
much just hobbying up. I might go to an RTT or two. I don't even think I have any GTs planned.
Hmm.
Um, I know there's GTs in October
Okay.
after DreamHack that I'm gonna go to, and
Nice.
probably will go to Warzone Atlanta.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's an event I have yet to go to because um it's always been a weird event because they do like a 3-day event,
Okay. That's pretty
but
long.
like yeah, but if you don't, it's like you can sign up for a 2-day event,
Okay.
but you participate with the same people that play in the 3-day event. And so what happens if you sign up for the 2-day event, you go in with 2 losses.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a very weird event. It's always driven my friends insane because it's like we only want to play, the weekend,
Yeah.
but if we don't, we already have 2 losses. And it's
Yeah.
it's something. It's weird, right? Like I don't know how else to say it. It's just a weird event,
Like at
but
that point,
it's
you're just
very
going to get the
popular.
reps in, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very popular event. Like Art of War always goes, and it's
Hmm.
usually quite a few hundred players. You just gotta, you gotta either pay for the 3 days, and it's pretty expensive,
Hmm.
or you just pay for 2 days and you accept. You're like submarining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um. All right. So, Jordan, is there anything else you want to let the viewers know before we wrap up the interview?
Um, I should say something more controversial. I don't know. Uh, the Trans-Hyperion is the correct. Uh, what do we even call it? Is it? It's not faction.
Oh, the like the it's not a legion.
I
What
want to
is
say
it?
yeah, league. It's the correct
It's a
league.
league. Yes, there you go.
Yeah, yes, yes. That's the correct league to play. If you're playing with any other colors,
All right, so
you're still
Trans-Hyperion
playing the.
Alliance is the canonical league that you have to play as to actually be a
They're
real
the
Votann
prettiest.
player. Okay.
Yeah. Well, not real. You can still be the same height. But if you want to be the best Votann,
The
you
best.
have to be
Okay.
orange. You gotta be
Yes.
traffic cone.
Yes, you have. Yeah, that's
Tra-
the only way you could get better as like if you want to go pro with Votann, you have to repaint your army orange. That's the only way to move
You have.
up.
It's the traffic cones of doom.
Yeah, it stops others from scoring. They're more they're more respective of the conditions. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed the interview here and all the knowledge and insight that Jordan had to share with us. He did a phenomenal job at the event, going undefeated at NATC with Leagues of Votann. I hope you guys learned a little bit about some of his design philosophy for the list and some of his thought process here. I definitely learned a lot myself, and my opinion has now officially been swayed on the Berserk. So I'm going to be trying out the Plasma Axis, and you'll probably get another video talking about that in the weeks to come. Jordan, thank you again so much for coming on the channel. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks. I tried to keep
I
it
love talking about.
engaging. Yeah, of
I
course. Who
love
doesn't like
talking
talking
about
about the
Votann.
dwarves?
God, they're so fun. They're so fun.
All right. And thank you to all the viewers for tuning in. And as always, if you like this, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment for me down below. If you have any questions, we'd both be happy to answer them. I'm assuming I'm answering for Jordan inside of the comments on YouTube. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next one.